One of my channels has a strike on it. This YouTube channel is taking a while to connect. That might not go. Oh, there it goes. It connected. Okay, I'll tell you what. I really wanted to watch this video. Maybe I'll catch you guys up on what I've already watched from RBN. This video is called Addressing Jimmy Dore again. And here's my thing about, now I'm gonna run this in fast because Jay Buffont he's talking very slow in this video. So I'll go ahead and
welcome to the JB Font channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this Sunday afternoon. It is December 24th, 2023, Christmas.
So he's part of Revolutionary Blackout Network that our friend Unholy Rome is also a part of. He chooses to not talk to me. He doesn't interact with me on Twitter. He's never responded to any of my chats or anything. But he is taking exception to Jimmy Dore. And there's a lot going on with RBN and Jimmy Dore. And, I always said, anybody going over there and being Jimmy Dore's buddy doesn't understand him yet. And like Billy said, eventually you're going to figure it out for yourself. I can tell you all I want. I can lead you to the water. I can't shove your head under it and drown you like you deserve to be. And Billy knew that about me and Jimmy Dore. He was like, well, yeah, I told you the guy's a phony and you're just going to have to find out for yourself. And I did. And then it's like I took Billy's place and RBN took mine. And I was like, now you guys have to learn. It's just like Willie Bragg. I'm like, Willie Bragg's going to have to learn about Jimmy Dore too. And you know what? You can't shove their head underwater. You just can't do that. You have to let these guys find out for themselves. These are the kinds of people that only want to discover stuff on their own, and you can't tell them anything. So, Willie Bragg, RBN, and all these other people who still, follow Jimmy Dore around like a lost puppy, they're getting it. And all you can do is stand back and watch and enjoy the show. So that's what I'm going to let you guys do. Listen to this for a little bit.
Eve, it's so good to see all of you here with me today on this Christmas Eve as well. The JB Font channel is available on all major podcast platforms, so go ahead and subscribe there.
Also, this was streamed a month ago. So, this is a month old.
The Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays if you have not already. You guys can also subscribe to my Substack at jbfont.substack.com so you're aware of all email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write articles, so you can go ahead there. If you already like what I put out and you guys want to continue to support the channel, you guys can push me out to the algorithm by also liking the stream today. Because this is a special topic, I will be giving my citations and hellos to everybody in the chat after I say what I need to say.
Now, this is the title of the video. This is what I want to discuss. Now, what's going on with what's going on with Tiffany Fong and Celsius, that can wait. That can even be done on my own time. The thing that she said in there that interests me the most is she says she lost all of her money. And I'm really curious to find out why she lost all of her money when I just got half of my money back. I got more than half back, actually. And, lesson learned. It was an expensive fucking lesson to learn. But at least I've got something to show for it now. Billy says connected. Good, Billy, good. Willie's alternative zone. Great guy. Means well, slower than slow on heroin. He'll see the light in hospice around 2031. His hair isn't Buffont enough.
Lung problems, asbestos and mesothelioma, smoking and lung cancer, and diet and cancer. In fact, his book on his...
I'm sorry. We jumped ahead here. My bad.
Hats that I wear within this independent media space. The hats that I wear are as a black man that is also disabled as well as gay.
Right. So he's a gay, disabled black man. He falls into every category that's been slighted against. Every single one, The only thing he's not is a woman. But almost, and he's not, I'm sure there's another few things he could be too. What do I say? There's a few other things he could be as well. But almost every category he falls into. And I just want to say this. He makes a comment that says, because I'm a black man in this space, I'm not allowed to yell and scream and really show you my anger. I got news for you, bro. This white man can't even do that. Because not only will I get algorithmed and shut down by taking my good hard-earned subscribers away from me and not telling all my subscribers when I go live. No. My own audience can't even fucking take it. And I'm realizing that now. They can't even fucking take it. Because eventually, I'm going to say something in a mean way that they don't like or they don't agree with, and they get all butthurt and they leave and they never fucking come back. So don't give me the fact that it's because you're a black man that you can't scream and rant and rave and yell. Okay? Because this white man can't even fucking do it in this space. Just saying. You don't get that. You don't get to walk away with that from me, buddy.
I do not like having to do these for the reason that I'd rather stick to a lot of what's going on in the news. But for the sole purpose of this subject and so many people...
Let me tell you why you really don't want to do it, Jay. You don't want to bite the hand that feeds RBN. Jimmy Dore lifted you up and put you on his show and made you much more famous than you guys ever were. That's what you don't want to do, and I understand it. That's what Jackson Hinkle suffered from. That's what Kurt Metzger suffers from. That's what Steph Zamorano suffers from. There's a lot of people out there who are still playing the that narrative.
Being told inaccurate information, I have to say something as a black person and as an LGBTQ person in this space. Here's the thing. When it comes to subjects like this is deeply important to me. And I am doing this out of a sense of duty because ultimately this is about uniting the working class in order to achieve something better in this country. My hope for addressing Jimmy Dore on this is to be a teachable moment, not just to him, but also his audience that may be tuning in, who may have not ever tuned into my channel before. Welcome to you as well. As of less than 2 weeks ago, Jimmy Dore had on Tucker Carlson on his show. In their conversation, there were some things that were said regarding class and identity that were reprehensible in my view. I plan to go over these things and address them to educate my audience on the show as to why we cannot separate the two.
And let me just explain to Jay why Jimmy Dore does that. He doesn't push back on people like Tucker Carlson because he also does not want to bite the hand that feeds him. Hello? Yes, it is. I'm good. Kind of in a hurry. No, I do not. And look, if you're trying to get me to not cancel my service next year, is that why you're calling? What's the reason? Well, it's been like that for months. That's why I'm canceling the service. I also heard that True Green got bought out by a big corporation, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're making changes. But whatever it is, we got you guys a year ago, maybe more. The lawn looked great for a whole year. And then with about 6 months ago, everything started turning brown. And your guys would come out and they would spray and they would leave messages and everything. And they haven't been able to fix it. So I am over it. I'm not using your service anymore. As soon as this year is up, we're done. And I don't want to get any more calls from your sales department.
Okay, sir. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. And I do.
Goodbye. You guys like the way I dealt with that? Usually I'll just ignore it, but they'll just keep calling. They'll keep calling me. You love how I handle that? Like, wow, dude. Stop fucking calling me. No means no, bitch. And he's in a normal chair, meaning he walked to it. Dude, don't judge Billy, don't judge someone's disability. You don't know what his disability is. This guy has, he's got to get blood transfusions every week, bro. You know, maybe twice a week. So, you know, that's a disability. Absolutely. Maybe a little bit more compassion, Billy. Dude, I'm not coming down on these guys. I'm giving them full credit for finally waking up about Jimmy Dore. So, let's play a little ball, Billy. Can we play ball today?
Like what
Please?
So I'm going to share my screen just so that we can get into exactly what was said. I think this is going to be
I'm ready to do a dab.
Some people may regard this as just talking about identity, which this is not. Some people may regard this as just talking about class, which this is not. I'm going to show and share with receipts why identity and class are intertwined and it cannot be separated.
Identity and class are intertwined.
That are willing to separate the two. Let's get into it.
Okay, that's fair. Identity and
this is the
class
part
are
that I know.
intertwined.
And so to keep pretending like we're living 30 years ago is exactly what the establishment wants to do. And by the way, all this talk about trans issues and talk about white, this doesn't come from the grassroots up. This comes directly from BlackRock and Larry Fink. This comes from Vanguard. This is so the most murderous companies who are raping the planet can shroud themselves in an air of virtue. And how they do it by trans issues and LGBTQ and white supremacy and inclusion and equity and all that stuff. And that's there to keep us divided because they don't.
So we're going to get into it, right? So I will be stopping or pausing in different intervals in order to respond. And I will also be sharing different facts and figures as well to back it up. Now, in order to truly get across the ideas and information that I need to, because I'm a black man in this space, I have to take the emotion that I'm feeling and I have to put it to the side because I do not get the deference and I do not get the grace that someone who is white like Jimmy Dore has.
Bro, I'm white and they don't give me any grace either. I'm just saying. It's not about you being black and me being white. It's about us being angry, and people are scared of anger today. Everyone's triggered. So, bro, I'm with you. I totally understand. It's not because you're black. That's what I'm saying. You don't get to play that card in the garden with Trendy Nay because I'm way more silenced than you are, and I'm white as the whitest snow, bro. So, don't give me that shit.
So even though I want to be as loud, passionate, and boisterous like Jimmy is, I can't do that. Because then I will get tagged as the angry black man.
Right.
So if I seem a little overly calm, it is because I have to do that in this space. I do not have that privilege.
And I will give you full credit for behaving this way, bro. I wish I could do what you're doing now. I give you full credit. I wish I could do it. I can't control my anger and rage when I start talking about this shit. So, man, maybe I'll learn from you.
So, let's go.
Let's do 28. 28.
Conversation with Cornel West when he came on the show. And when he came on the show, I was a supporter of his, and when he left, I wasn't. And I tried to impress upon him that when he talks about white supremacy,
I'm freaking
the majority of
legally
people in
retarded,
America
so I have to
are
work,
white.
so I'm always
and
curious.
if you're going to try to lecture
Right.
minors about white supremacy, it's going to fall.
What's that called that he's got that he needs blood transfusions twice a week? What's that? I forgot what that's called. God bless America. I'm sorry, I forgot. I forgot what that's called.
Flat. And if he's out there being a black activist, he could talk about white supremacy. But if you're trying to run for president and actually oppose the establishment, the last thing you should do is try to lead with trans issues or LGBTQ or because you know what? If you get a living wage for everybody, that helps everybody, especially.
Now, here's the thing. He said coal miners. Some are black.
Okay.
Some are LGBTQ.
Right, and he talks about this for a long time, and yes, there are coal miners. There's LGBTQ, there's women coal miners, there's black coal miners. Yes, he makes a good point, but he talks about it for way too long.
Things like white supremacy is going to fall on deaf ears.
No law regarding cannabis. Cheers, everybody.
Okay. Let me address this real quick. I have notes so to keep myself on track. So, not acknowledging the problem and facing it head on is what the establishment doesn't want. You see, a lot of times when it comes to talking about issues regarding white supremacy, especially within this space, or if, say, a presidential candidate is talking about it, it is important because it shows that, yes, it is a problem, and yes, it needs to be on the forefront of white people's minds. Let me put this out here right now. If you're white, and if talking about white supremacy makes you feel bad, then that sounds like some internal work that you need to deal with. It is not a means to make you just feel bad in your heart, and that's it. Talking about white supremacy.
My favorite is when Republicans say there's no racism in this country.
So that the issue can be changed, so that the issues for marginalized people can improve. If I have an issue with you, do you want me to just keep it inside and then just react in a passive-aggressive way without actually confronting the issue? Or do you want me to actually name the issue, confront the issue, and then so we can work through it, so that we can actually move forward together? I think that's what is ultimately the best course of action. Now, these corporations that use DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and LGBTQ issues, they use them as a cover to keep themselves in a positive light with certain groups. And what they do is they separate identity from class. But their focus is on the identity part, when in reality, it's actually connected. I don't think that we should dismiss this, because just because the liberal side focuses on identity and separates it from class, doesn't mean the other side that focuses on class and separates it from identity is any better. I think we really need to start thinking of it as two sides of the same coin. They're not two separate coins.
Like trans and LGBTQ, black and white. If you get healthcare for everybody, that helps everybody, meaning black and white. So if you start to, what the establishment wants people like Cornel West to do is to keep talking about white supremacy.
3 minutes, Unholy Rome's going to pop on.
Healthcare. So we're going to talk about healthcare.
Liven things up a little bit.
Okay. Let's say hypothetically you give everyone healthcare for all, right? We give everybody healthcare for all, and that gets rid of the whole disparity, right? Wrong. Because there still will be disparities if we don't tackle the issue as far as identity is concerned. So let me share with you some statistics. Let me see.
2 of my Facebooks won't connect. It's cool.
All right. So this is
they're shutting down my Facebooks one channel at a time.
This is from 2 years ago. It says in 2021, maternal mortality rate for non-Hispanic Black, subsequently Black women, was 69.9 deaths per 100,000 live births, 2.6 times the rate for non-Hispanic white, subsequently white women, which is 26.6. Rates for the Black women are significantly higher than rates for white and Hispanic women. The increases from 2020 to 2021 for all race and Hispanic origin groups were significant. By that being said, even if you were to account to have everyone equal as far as their health care given, there's still racial disparities. They're still there. So then what? I can't tell you how many stories we've had about doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers treating Black people differently, even gauging our pain thresholds as higher, and this is including in medical textbooks, saying that, oh, we feel less pain. How many people who are Black in the healthcare system that have been, their pain and their concerns have been waved away because of the color of our skin? Let me ask you this. How many people who are trans literally have to crowdfund for their gender affirming care? You don't think that's not a class issue? I think it is. In order for them to be able to be the true version of themselves. Let me do this as well. If you're ready, just put a thumbs up. You ready?
Here comes Rome.
Rome, good to see you. Thank you very much for coming in as well. Appreciate
Friend of the show, Unholy Rome, everybody.
I was just doing this bullshit at the library, but I had time, man. I had time for this short.
Yeah. So right now I'm at the point where he talks about the disparity. He talks about how if everybody gets healthcare, then that's it. Everybody's good, right? When in reality, if you just gave everybody healthcare, you're not tackling the disparities that are also still existing within the healthcare system. Right. So that's a point that I think that needs to be addressed as well. Is that if you're going to say that everybody's good once everybody has the exact same thing,
why is it? Excuse me. I'm sorry, but why is it? Why is it we don't have healthcare? Why is it Americans don't have healthcare? It's because of Black people. They do not want Black people to live longer, and white people go against their own needs. When they say that Black people are going to benefit from healthcare, they say no. So why is it we don't have healthcare now?
Yeah, there was actually someone who was actually talking about that very same subject, saying that the reason why we don't have universal healthcare is because they don't want the Black people to have it.
So how would we get that healthcare? Let's be real here. How can we get universal healthcare when we have all of these institutions over our head? We have Big Pharma in our Congress, all through our office, paid off down everybody that runs. How are we going to get that? Let's be real here.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is like a lot of times people will talk about, the reason why we don't have it is because, we just don't have the right people in office. Part of it is because of race. Part of it is because we are, because they want to keep us divided.
How can you not talk about? How can you talk? Just don't.
Okay, so let me share this really quick, because it's kind of ironic that this is here, but it is what it is. Let's listen, because I've heard this before.
Okay, I want to slow this down now.
We don't. Why do we diverge from everyone else? How did that happen?
Nearly 100% of the reason why the United States is the only country in the world that doesn't define healthcare as a right and doesn't have any sort of national healthcare system to speak of is because of racism. It really began in the 1880s, 1890s when medicine became a thing. And
let me just say this. It's crazy that RBN is pulling up Tom Hartman as a source, because Tom Hartman is a fucking raving lunatic lefty Democrat, hardcore Biden, hardcore Hillary Trump supporter. Russia ruined the election. Russia did everything. He's a fucking demo bot, this guy. So it's very interesting to me that RBN pulled this guy up to listen to what he has to say.
There was this guy named Frederick Ludwig Hoffman who came over here from Germany, and he was a young man. He was 17, in fact, when he came over, and was a numbers genius. And he was the guy who figured out that there was a statistical association between working in a cotton mill and having lung problems, asbestos and mesothelioma, smoking and lung cancer, and diet and cancer. In fact, his book on the association between a high processed food diet and cancer is still in print. He's been dead since 1946, but his book is still around. So he's really smart in these things. And so he married this Southern belle from Georgia who was from a racist plantation family. And so he ran the numbers on black people and found that black people were dying, dropping like flies, more likely to be sick, more likely to die of pretty much everything. And concluded, which was the general consensus at the time among a lot of white people in the South, this is again in the 1890s, that black people were genetically inferior. And in 1896,
so this guy who's so smart about all these things, man, he totally gets this part wrong. This is hilarious.
he published a book called Race, Tendencies, and Traits of the American Negro, in which he lays out all the numbers. And then he concludes that if we simply avoided allowing black people to have any access to health care, that within 2 or 3 generations, the whole race would die out, and that would solve the race problem in America.
Solve. Like the final solution. It's psychotic. How to kill off, how to genocide people, without firing a single shot.
By the 1920s, this was referred to as scientific racism. He was testifying about it before Congress. When Teddy Roosevelt, 1912, proposed a national healthcare system, people said no because black people will get it. When Franklin Roosevelt proposed a national healthcare system, it was the same thing. We don't want black people to get it. When Truman tried it in 47, same thing. Don't want black people to get it. Right up until 1965, Senator Stennis, the Dixiecrats from the South, was quoting Hoffman as saying this, we have to figure out a way to keep black people from using Medicare. This is when they were passing Medicare. And the way that they came up with was to have a 20% a gap in Medicare so that you had to pay 20% of your doctor's bill and your hospital bill, and that would discourage poor black people from showing up at the hospitals. I mean, it was the most shocking thing I discovered, Cenk, when I was doing the research on this book, is that nearly 100% of the reason why the United States is the only country in the world that doesn't define healthcare as a right and doesn't have any sort of national healthcare system to speak of is because of racism.
So yeah.
Answered that. Let's go back to the video. Let's continue. So here's the thing. If you really want to address, right, the disparities in our healthcare system, then also the disparities in white supremacy would also need to be addressed as well in order for us to be able to actually get what we need so that all tide lifts all boats. But the thing is that if we're not willing to address the actual...
And let me just say this. I completely understand what Jay is just saying right there, and it just seems like it would just be common sense. It would just be, of course. I mean, yes, they're intertwined. They have to both be addressed. And it just seems like a word that I never like to use, but it is. It's a fucking no-brainer. It's something that should just go without even having to think about. So it's interesting that people are pushing back against this,
500-pound gorilla in the room, then guess what? We're not actually going to get what we actually need in this country because we have this albatross around our neck that keeps us down. Now, let me continue with the video.
Talking about trans issues, to keep talking about LGBTQ as if they're an oppressed minority like they were in the 90s when I started.
Now, the LGBTQ
they are
oppressed minority. Does it still exist?
Yes, of course they're an oppressed minority. Come to Florida. Come listen to Ron DeSantis speak. Go see what happened to that girl in, where was that? Oklahoma? Where that girl got murdered in a fucking bathroom? The trans girl or whatever? Did you guys see that shit? 3 girls beat a girl to death, man. And it was the day after their fucking governor had a little internet thing with the leader of the Moms for Liberty or Libs. What is it? Moms for Liberty or Libs of TikTok or whatever. One of those weird mothers fucking internet groups, and he had his picture with her all smiling next to him and shit. And the next day, those 3 girls killed a little trans girl.
Well,
this nigga is he can't be that stupid.
This was a month ago, though.
Be that stupid.
So that hadn't happened yet.
And to say that we act like a minority group that's still being oppressed.
See, look, and this is good because Jay Buffont came on here and said, "I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to get mad. I'm just going to say what I have to say because I'm a black man and I'm not allowed to be an angry black man in this space." And then fucking dude, Unholy Rome just steps in there and is like, "No, bro, this is how you got to be, man. You got to be angry. You got to show it." And I'm going to scream and I'm going to yell and I'm going to curse and we're fucking pissed and there's no other way to express this. I sympathize with Unholy Rome.
We are oppressed worse, in way worse ways than we were.
Dude, what the fuck? You guys saw, I was just moving the volume up. You saw it just totally ended the video or something. I don't even know what the fuck just happened.
We were in the 90s. We are oppressed in way worse ways than we were in the fucking 90s. Look at the Patriot Act, the NDAA that kicked the activists off the damn ground. Our leaders are gone. What the fuck is you talking about? They act like they're oppressed minority group. We are. Why is it? Why is it that how is America doing something? People say this shit. Only rich white people say this type of shit. Ain't nobody who out of touch with reality that much that you don't see the shit that's going on the ground. We all are commentators. We all are political commentators. We know the history. We know what goes on the ground. People are being killed by police every day for nothing. They neglected from the healthcare system to the man. Play the video.
All right, so let me share this really quick with everybody, just so that we're clear. So this is out of Bloomberg. It says 2023 is already a record year for anti-LGBTQ bills in the U.S. Apparently, we're still doing all right. We're not being as discriminated against. Well, it says state lawmakers in the U.S. have already introduced more anti-LGBTQ bills this year than the past 5 years combined. At least 385 anti-LGBTQ laws have been introduced at the state level in a majority of U.S. states as of March 3rd, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. By comparison, lawmakers introduced 162 anti-LGBTQ bills last year, 19 of which were signed into law. Between 2018 and 2022, state legislators introduced at least 361 anti-LGBTQ bills in total. So if you look at this graph, it actually shows in 2022 that they have been ramping up the anti-LGBTQ laws. Also, this is from Jillian Brandstetter.
Where's the fucking video at? Dude, what is going on?
From public life. It says even if only 10% of those bills became law, it represents a massive rollback of freedoms for everyone.
Why does Windows suck so bad?
Deserves. It says many of the bills
doesn't even make sense.
People, some are trying to block health care, while others limit access to bathrooms or ability to join sports teams. By the way, just to let you guys know, let me read this really quick. It says more recently, drag performers have become under fire from lawmakers. I'm going to say something that you guys are probably going to be like, oh my God, shock and awe. But guess what? Number one, trans people are workers. Number two, drag queens are also workers. So here's the thing. If they are being discriminated against, that means more. So my question is, and I got to make sure to keep myself calm, is that why in the world are we sitting here dividing the workers? Because we could be talking about
no law regarding cannabis. Cheers, everybody.
Somehow is bad. Somehow we're somehow doing much better in this country.
I learned a long time, worker means white person. That's what that means. So what do Jimmy want our leaders to do? Want somebody that's running for president to do? Not address the issues that I face every day? And you think you're going to get that vote? You think you're going to get a nigga like me to vote for you if you're not addressing the things that me and my community is going through? So Jimmy, even if I had healthcare, right? Let's say all black people was healthy. We're doing good, right? We went vegan, vegetarian, we all working out. Guess what? You get shot in the head by the damn cops. So you got to address what's going on. We still are oppressed minority group. We have an illusion of these freedoms that has been given to us, but we still are the majority of the prison population. Jimmy, we are not only the majority of the prison population, but half of the people there are being held without trial, without bail, and most of them motherfuckers are black.
Rome, just let you know when you raise your voice, the sound kind of goes out a little bit. Just letting you know. So as far as the sound quality, just letting you know.
I'm sorry. Yeah, because we have to address these things.
Jay, this is what you should tell him. Yo, Unholy Rome, take your mic and just move it a little bit away from your mouth. It's too close. And just back it away and you'll be able to scream and yell all you want. But his mic's not going out, it's distorting.
If you're going to run...
That's a communication problem right there.
You better be ready.
Jay's got to work on his communication skills.
It's not just the white working class that has issues in America. We are still facing the same problems that my grandfather are facing. We are worse off. Most black people are still staying with their parents. The older millennials are staying with their parents. Do you understand that? Do you understand the wealth gap of normal white American families having $100,000 in their bank accounts compared to black people with $100 to $500?
Oh, I'll get into that in a second. I also have that as well. So let me share this as well. I just want to continue this. This is from the Williams Institute. This is from UCLA. It says evidence of employment-based discrimination on sexual orientation and gender identity. It says in October 15, 22 states in the District of Columbia.
He said worker means white person.
Sexual orientation of those states, 19.
I think what he meant was he was talking about, I heard him say that, he was talking about in Jimmy Dore's context. He's like, Jimmy Dore means, he's referring to white people. He's calling Jimmy Dore racist.
District of Columbia also expressly prohibit discrimination based on basis of gender. By analysis how frequently existing state employment non-discrimination laws are used by LGBT people. So here's the data points. So it says 6.5 million workers in the United States LGBT. 51% of the LGBT workforce is not protected from sexual orientation or gender identity discrimination under state laws. And then this one says 4.9% of complaints of racial discrimination every 10,000 workers of color, but 3.7 complaints of sexual sex discrimination in employment off every 10,000 female workers each year. The thing is that yes, it still happens regarding sexual orientation too, which is also based on class. Now, I also have some more statistics just to prove my point. Let's go into this. So, we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's go to inhomelessness.org. It says racial inequalities and homelessness by the numbers. Most minority groups in the United States experience homelessness than whites, and therefore make up a disproportionate share of the homeless population. African Americans make up 13% of the general population, but more than 40% of the homeless population. Similarly, American Indians, Alaska Natives, Native Hawaiians, Pacific Islanders, people who identify with more races make up a disproportionate share of the homeless population. So, when it comes to race and class, when it comes to even homelessness, there is a disproportionality. That also is not being addressed. That's being denied by people like Jimmy Dore and Tucker Carlson. And so when it comes to race and class, they are intertwined. I also have more receipts to share because this is the thing. Saying that, oh, we've had it good for the last 30 years is gaslighting.
It's disrespectful.
Yes, it is. It's disrespectful to people.
This is what I want from you so-called white allies. I want you to shut the fuck up and stop speaking for us. We do enough of it. I'm pretty sure you guys hear us loud and clear. You hear us loud enough to ignore us. So if you're going to ignore what we're saying,
you hear us. I love that.
Because you have
Dude,
no idea, especially as a rich.
That is one of the greatest statements I've ever heard. I can't believe he just came up with that on the fly. You hear us loud enough to ignore us. Did he just say that? I want to kind of rewind that. 32:39. Let's take it back to 32. You hear us loud enough to ignore us.
Gaslighting.
It's disrespectful.
Yes, it is. It's disrespectful to people.
This is what I want from you so-called white allies. I want you to shut the fuck up and stop speaking for us. We do enough of it. I'm pretty sure you guys hear us loud and clear. You hear us loud enough to ignore us.
Those are some fucking powerful words. You hear us loud enough to ignore us. You hear us loud enough to ignore us. Fucking mic drop, bro.
So if you're going to ignore what we're saying, don't even speak on what we go through as a community. Because you have no idea, especially as a rich white man who would never, ever walk through a fucking hood. Never have to if you don't have to. Don't have to whip a damn finger to get what you want. You have no idea what it's like to be in a state of rage, to be in a state of panic, to be in a state of, is this my last day?
Yeah. Let's continue this. Let me share this as well. And then we're going to humanize this as well, because I would like to share this in order to humanize. So this says papers. Police seized $17 million in 3 years. Blacks targeted and broke. So it says over 3 years, law enforcement agencies seized $17 million from people in South Carolina. They thought they got the money through illegal means, according to an investigation by 2 newspapers. About 65% of the people targeted civil asset forfeiture in the state from 2014 to 2016 were black males in the state where African American men make up just 13% of the population, according to Taken, a project by the Greenville News and Anderson Independent Mail. It says nearly 20% of more than 4,000 people who had money or items seized over 3 years were never charged with a crime, and another 1 in 5 were found not guilty or had charges on this. More than half of the cases, police seized more than $100,000.
James, is going on you?
Here's the thing. We also are disproportionately affected when it comes to civil asset forfeiture, which is also basically theft by police. So I think that's also another thing to also talk about as well. The criminal justice system when it comes to being black in this country. And this is not something that is just something that we've endured for 30 years ago and so suddenly we're doing better.
They have no idea what it's like to be pushed into crime, into a life of crime. Do you understand what it means to be a poor black person? No, you have no idea. So let me give you just a glimpse, just a small glimpse. Your mother is poor. Your father is gone. The state took him. She's all you got, but y'all don't have enough. So you go out and you do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, you go get jobs. You do this, it's still not enough. You sell a little dope on the side. You have to. Just to make the ends meet, you have to go into a life of crime. And guess what happens? Now they set you up. Now You about to get your number, and you about to go through that revolving door that they call the prison industrial complex, and you will be back. You will be back there. Now, there's like, I have been robbed by police multiple times, and sometimes they only took my money. They left me with the dope because that's what's gonna make them more money. You don't understand the shit that we have to go through. Now, I'm not saying I'm a good guy for selling drugs to my neighborhood. No, I'm not a good guy for that. But who is the robber here? Who's the bad guy here? When it costs, it's worse than the drug dealers. Who's the bad guy here? I'm not trying to make it. Y'all put up every wall and close every door on me. I'm trying to get it how I can, and I'll have the police here to save the day and rob me of everything I have and say I bought it with dope money, even if I did. Right? Y'all have no idea what it's like to be pushed into a life of crime. Do not speak on black issues if you're not going to speak on the real. If you're not going to get down to the nitty gritty, or at least have a black person on your show to talk about what's going on, you know? And not one of them tap dancing ass queens. I mean, somebody that's really from the city, that's somebody that's really there, going through gentrification. Do you understand what that means? We are facing gentrification right now. Some of the biggest gentrification that we have seen. We are displaced. Displaced in a nation that we shouldn't even be in.
So let me share this really quick. Let's humanize this for a second. This is not unusual for us to go through simply because of the color of our skin. This is a service member. This is someone who was in the military that was actually fighting for the country, and they got pulled over by police.
Let me see your hands. How many occupants are in the vehicle?
What's going on?
How many occupants are in your vehicle?
It's only myself. Why are your weapons drawn? What's going on?
Open the door slowly. Step out. Open the door.
I'm not getting out the vehicle. What's going on?
Get out the car.
What's going on?
Get out the car now. Open the door. Get out the car.
Keep your hands outside the window.
My hands are right here. What's going
Get out
on?
of the car now.
Get out the car.
What's
Now.
going on?
Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now.
I'm serving this country and this is how I'm treated?
Yo, but guess what? I'm a veteran too. I don't know, babe.
That's
Get out of the car.
What's going on?
Man,
What's going on? You fixing the light yourself.
I'm sorry, what?
Get out of the car now.
What's going
Get out of the
on?
car now.
Work with us and we'll talk to you. Get out the car.
You received an order. Obey it.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you should be. Get out.
What's
Get out.
He said, I'm afraid to get out of the car, and he said, yeah, you should be.
okay.
So, any wonder why we go through what we go through in this country? And by the way, if he gets arrested, because the police, which is also, by the way, inherently racist institution, arrests him and then put him in jail, and then he fails to go to work, guess what happens to him? Guess what happens to his job? And then he has that on his record. Guess what happens to him when he has that on his record when he tries to go for further employment? What happens to him then? How is race and class? How is that connected? I have another one. And that video that I was sharing actually gets worse because he literally gets pepper sprayed for not complying. Let's share this also as well. I actually talked about this earlier this year because this is what was happening to a teenager, and a lot of people don't really regard this as a class issue, but this is ultimately a class issue as well. Let's get into this.
For Daryl George, just outside Houston, Texas, Hare has defined his junior year of high school. How has this all felt for you?
It's very stressful. I'm trying to maintain being a student while also having to deal with this.
The 18-year-old has now been suspended twice over his hairstyle at Barkers Hill High School, most recently in early December. The first time was back in August. School officials said George's braided locks fell below his eyebrows and earlobes, which violated the school district's dress code for boys.
Why should I cut my hair for my education? My hair has nothing to do with my education.
George was put in a disciplinary off-campus education program, and when he returned to school with his style intact, he was suspended again. The family filing a federal civil rights lawsuit against Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the state's attorney general in September, alleging that George's suspension violates the Crown Act, a Texas state law that took effect September 1st, prohibiting race-based discrimination, banning employers and schools from penalizing people because of their hair texture.
I certainly hope they won that lawsuit. I wonder what the status is of that. Fuck these motherfuckers, bro. Holy shit.
Or protective styles, such as afros, twists, or dreadlocks. At least 24 states have their own version of the law.
I'm for all those styles. I'm just saying no Jerry curl, okay? All of that is fine, but just don't bring back the Jerry curl. All right? And that you got me. You got me. I'm on your side.
According to the think tank, the Economic Policy Institute, much of that legislation following high-profile incidents of alleged hair discrimination against African Americans.
We're alleging that the grooming code of Barkers Hill ISD is unconstitutional. The law says whether or not you intend to target a specific...
I support Jerry curl as much as Unholy Rome supports Jeeps on the road.
...protected class, if the end result is that only the protected class is affected, is discriminatory.
George is a...
But we've been good for the last 30 years.
And for the last 30 years, let's see what has happened. I grew up fatherless, right? Like a lot of my homies did, like a lot of my niggas did. You think we're not feeling those effects of the prison industrial complex coming and swoop up our fathers? You think we're not feeling the effects of the crack epidemic? You think those are just gone? You think those people are just gone like my auntie? Still going back and forth with this fucking drug that the CIA put into our community, our own government, poisoned us? You think we're not feeling the effects of this poisoned water that's been in our pipes, that have been neglecting to clean? You have no idea how much neglect.
Quarter of the hour. 4:20 in Newfoundland. Cheers, everybody. No longer gonna get it.
It's a slap in the face. It's disrespectful, and I wish. If you're gonna talk about class, talk about your law. Don't talk about the shit that make your audience feel good. Because I know what you're doing. I know what all these motherfuckers do. And they're pandering to the white people because that's where the motherfucking money at. people ain't got no money to be giving them streamers. You giving them fucking podcasters. We're too busy trying out the fucking job and debt, medical debt, student loan debt, credit card debt. They said you couldn't write off anymore. Who's affected the most by that shit? Look up who's really affected by these things. Yes, white people are affected by it, but not like how we are, and not like how we should be seen that we are only 13% of this fucking country. There's no way we should be a majority of the prison population. That's like all of us living in China, and China has a prison population majority white. You understand?
Let's continue this video.
The attorney says the district is engaging in a discriminatory pattern since back in 2020, 2 other students, both black teens, were also suspended for their hairstyles. In response, the Barbers Hill School District tells NBC News in part the claim is false, saying it has many African-American students who wear dreadlocks and other similar protected hairstyles and comply with the district's length policy. We have one who does not. The superintendent adding that there are African-American students with religious exemptions for hair length, but quote, we do not have an exception for I don't want to follow the rules. The superintendent also calling the lawsuit baseless and filing a lawsuit to clarify that the Crown Act does not address length or any other student expression, but instead protects the right to wear braids. Texas governors and attorney general's offices did not respond to our request for comment. As for Daryl George, his attorney says this legal battle has taken its toll. She requested a temporary injunction so George can return to school.
I feel like I ain't going nowhere with it as of right now, though.
His family representative telling us many have encouraged the teenager to cut his hair and let the case go.
Daryl has hair that's woolly in his head from his grandfather and from other ancestors, and this is how he is connected to his people.
What does your hair and your hairstyle mean to you?
It just means a lot to me. It makes me feel more closer to my people. Being without my hair is like cutting me from my people, not letting me, express myself how I feel I should be.
Fair, bro.
Joining us now.
I'm okay with that.
Conversation around length versus braids. What exactly is the Crown Act, and where do we stand right now? Any broader legislation on the federal level?
Yeah, Sam, good to see you. So the Crown Act is an acronym that stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Of course, crown is also a term often used to refer to hair itself. And this legislation is particularly significant for the black community. There are a variety of natural hairstyles many African Americans use interchangeably. Even on this show, I've showed up to work with short curly hair and long braids. Now, as I mentioned, and as you asked, 24 states have their own version of the Crown Act. But there.
By the way, Ron, let me ask you this. About 10 years ago, this lady that's on the screen right now, would you imagine her being able to rock this hairstyle 10 years ago?
Hell no. Hell no. They was telling us to straighten out our hair, get a perm, get a press, right? They want us to look more appealing to the white person.
To the mainstream audience.
And they tell it like they are like the little boy that's been going through that bullshit at school. They are trying to teach him young. Comply, obey or die. Comply or die. Like this is it. You have to obey. If not, we will take away your education. We'll make your life hard. We will put you in legal battles that we know you can't afford to keep fighting.
Let me share this. This is out of the Boston Globe. It says that was no typo. The median net worth of black Bostonians really is $8. So it says the median net worth for non-immigrant African-American households in the greater Boston region is $8 according to the Color of Wealth in Boston. A 2015 report, not 30 years ago, 2015 report by the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, Duke University, and New School.
$8.
Ron, do you mind muting yourself real quick? Sorry.
Yeah.
It says this Spotlight 7-part series, which began Sunday, tackles the city's most vexing question: does Boston deserve its racist reputation? And so it goes into how the racial wealth disparity that happens even in liberal cities like Boston, and how there is continuously a racial wealth disparity. But yet we've been good for the last 30 years. It doesn't seem like it bears out to me. Now, one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to continue because I have some other things to say.
Hey, Willie Bragg, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the show. We were just talking about you. Were your ears burning?
Back then, they couldn't get married. They could get fired from their job. They couldn't get housing. That's all over.
It's all over.
Dude,
it's not over. Sorry, go ahead.
My mama, my auntie lost our childhood homes, man. We had to stay in at least 10 different houses. We had to jump door to door, sometimes couch surfing, man. And it is so hard. It is so hard to get housing. The Section 8 voucher, you're going to be on there until you're 40 fucking years old before you even get a damn house. My mama had to move out of Michigan. She had to go to Ohio to go into low income housing. So how are we good? We can't even afford to have a home anymore. It's way worse. We are way worse off as a community. Nothing has been built here but liquor stores and dispensaries. They knocked down 40-something schools in Detroit. And they keep building prisons. What is that for? Who is that for? It's for the kids that we just took them schools away from.
Good words.
They have no other opportunities out here, so they're going to go back in that revolving door of the prison industrial complex. Do you know how hard it is to be a black poor person in America? And you screaming for that?
It was Billy Valentine.
What's wrong with this guy? Like, I'm poor, I'm hungry, I do this, I do that. I have to go into prostitution to help feed my brothers and sisters. Do you understand me?
Let me share this as well. This is within the last few days. This wasn't 30 years ago. I hate when this happens. All right. Hang on, guys. I'm going to have to go around this paywall. Fortunately, I can't share this. Great. So, while this is loading, because for some reason it won't allow me to share it right now.
Jimmy Dore sucks, Willie. Billy says, Jimmy Dore sucks, Willie.
Can you mute yourself real quick for a second? Sorry.
Hey, Karen.
What this article is actually talking about is that Navy Federal Credit Union is actually under fire for a class action lawsuit for its racial discrimination against black borrowers within their account holders. And so it talks about how 75% of the borrowers that they approve of are white borrowers. And this class action lawsuit was presented 23 days ago. So it wasn't 30 years ago.
Don't leave out that, because make people like, oh, well, maybe your credit was bad. No. These black people, the majority of the black people that was trying to borrow had more money and had more wealth than the white families that they let borrow. So it ain't about having money, ain't about none of that shit. Because remember, we had stories about real estate. Remember how real estate game go? When a black family tried to get the house appraised, and then they was like, oh, well, it's only like 75,000, 100,000, whatever it may be. They get another one, put up some white people pictures, and now they're talking about the threes and $400,000, right? Come on, man.
Let's share this. All right, hang on, let me make sure I have this. Okay. So this is the article here. It says civil rights attorney Ben Crump files class action discrimination lawsuit against Navy Federal Credit Union. It says Navy Federal Credit Union, the largest credit union in the United States, is facing a class action lawsuit accusing it of racial discrimination.
Yes, I know about this too.
Reported civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump and Adam Levitt filed a class action lawsuit Sunday in a federal court in Virginia on behalf of Sherelle
let me
Jacob,
tell you, I haven't seen this yet. I haven't gotten this far into the video, but I know about this, and I'll tell you what Navy Federal did. They were approving mortgages on a much higher average for white people. And for African American, they were refusing a massive percentage of them for they had the same standards. The only difference was the color of their skin. And they were literally pulling a Donald Trump. We're flagging the African American families, and we're only really going to service the white ones.
Who is in the armed services, and Lakita Oliver, a 44-year-old black resident of Miami-Dade County, Florida, who works as a capital.
I need a little bit more water in here.
Women say that Navy Federal rejected their home loan applications despite having great credit and six-figure incomes. According to the lawsuit, Navy Federal violated the Fair Housing Act of 1968 and the Equal Opportunity Act. The lawsuit cited a report from CNN published earlier this month that Navy Federal, which lends to military service members, defense personnel, veterans, and their families, approved more than 75% of white borrowers who applied for new conventional home purchase mortgage in 2022, according to most recent data available from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. However, less than 50% of black borrowers who applied for the same type of loan were approved. So basically, this is also happening today, this year, which a lot of people aren't. According to Jimmy, it's like, well, this is all 30 years ago. So let's continue to some of the claims as well. Let's continue.
And so to keep pretending like we're living 30 years ago is exactly what the establishment wants to do. And by the way, all this talk about trans issues and talk about white, this doesn't come from the grassroots up. This comes directly from BlackRock and Larry Fink. This comes from Vanguard. This is so the most murderous companies who are raping the planet can shroud themselves in an air of virtue. And how do they do it? They do it by trans issues and LGBTQ and white supremacy and inclusion and equity and all that stuff. And that's there to keep us divided because the only
he is here speaking with the king of all of that, Tucker Carlson. And Jimmy Dore is just literally, he's got a whole list of talking points that he knows will trigger Tucker Carlson's, it will appeal to his, his hatred and his bigotry. And Jimmy Dore is firing on all those. Jimmy Dore is such a manipulator. And right now, RBN, these guys should totally clue in on this right here.
The only thing that scares the establishment is when people from the left and the right realize they have more in common that divides us, and they have shared enemy, and that shared enemy is the oligarchy. That's the only.
Now, so one thing I will say. Sorry, go ahead.
So you don't hear from regular trans people? You don't hear their outcries? You don't hear outcries from regular day-to-day black people, brown people? Like, we don't see millions of people getting deported. Right? We're gonna sit here and act like that. What the fuck is you talking about? We are saying this shit from our own mouths, not from no billionaires. I don't know what type of game that they're playing. Yes, they have money in all of this shit. Whether it be white people coming together, black people coming together, black and brown, yeah, they got money against all that shit. But the working class is screaming for help, and here you are, annoying them, saying that they are co-op. What kind of shit is that? What divides us, Jimmy? Is it not talking about these things? Or is it just ignoring? Just ignoring. And she's like, okay, we all can come together because times are better. What? No, they're not. I have no idea what my family is going through right now. You have no idea what the families in Detroit is going through right now. God, man, this shit pissing me. So this shit pissing me. I need to say really bit.
All right, let me continue this.
Only thing that scares them. And so if they can keep us talking about race, and if they can keep us talking about gender and ethnicity, that's a gift to them because it keeps everybody divided. Would you agree with that?
I agree with it. Stop the fucking video. It's divided, man.
God damn.
Who are you talking to? Who is your audience?
He is pissed.
The people that do not want to talk about some shit like that is racist white people. And why would I ever want to connect or do a collide with a motherfucker who don't even want to hear me out?
I guess that's his phone. His phone microphone. It's clipping like that, I guess.
As a black person in America. And that's the thing. Because white people feel like they are a part of this American thing. So they feel like when we talk bad about America, we're talking bad about white people. get offended for the establishment. If we can't sit here and talk about what's really going on, then why are we talking at all?
You have to be able to tell the truth. Here's what Tucker says.
Vehemently, and that was so nicely explained, I can't really add much to it other than to say there's been research on this, I'm sure you've seen this. The incidence of the phrase racist, white supremacist, white nationalist in the New York Times, which is easily searchable, shot up right after Occupy Wall Street. So I'm not alleging a conspiracy. I think it's a conspiracy of instinct. Like, oh, wait, the one thing you can't criticize is finance. Let's get the peasants mad at each other.
I kind of want to just rewind that and just hear that one more time. I'm sorry, 59:48. Let's go 59:25. I'm sorry, I missed all of those talking points.
Seen this. The incidence of the phrase racist, white supremacist, white nationalist in the New York Times, which is easily searchable, shot up right after Occupy Wall Street. So I'm not alleging a conspiracy.
After Occupy Wall Street. Huh. So, that was Occupy Wall Street was a movement to put a spotlight on the divide between the wealthy and the poor of this country, for the most part.
Conspiracy. I think it's a conspiracy of instinct. Like, oh, wait, the one thing you can't criticize is finance. Let's get the peasants mad at each other. There's no question about that. I mean, in my opinion, watching the real crimes are mostly financial.
So I guess he's trying to say Occupy Wall Street was a tool used by the liberal left to create division. That's what I'm assuming he's saying. Soros, I guess.
So let me address this really quick. Because Tucker's actually correct. He says the real crimes are financial. Yes, they are. But disproportionately against whom?
Top of the hour. No longer regarding cannabis. Cheers, everybody. I hope you're smoking along and having fun. I'm really enjoying this.
Let me share something.
I hope you are too.
Because he's correct. It is.
Hey, Daisy Flynn.
But there's also some racial elements to it as well. Let me get this really quick. So, it says, does wage theft disproportionately impact black employees? It says, did you know that the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 was established federal minimum wage and overtime pay and banned child labor, excluded housekeepers, laborers, nannies, tipped employees, and day laborers? This law encouraged employers to steal real wages from their employees. Unfortunately, wage theft still occurs today. Therefore, this is what you should know. It says, talk about wage theft. It says, who receives the greatest impact? Are you one of the Americans that experience overtime, minimum wage, or meal break violations, which occur in 1925 and even 58% of the workforce? Low-income individuals are disproportionately impacted. Women, immigrants, and people of color experience higher levels of wage theft. For example, although they only comprise of 10% of workforce, 16% of wage theft impacts black Americans. This led to 196,000 black workers experiencing wage theft, up to $22 million in 2020. This is disproportionate.
That's systemic racism.
So, if you want to talk about how we're treated by corporations, then yes, the disproportionality when it comes to how we experience wage theft is actually higher. So, when it comes to race and class, there's another intersection there.
It's built in.
Let's continue.
Just to make my teacher for 54 years, and I've never once on television or any public forum with a big audience. I've heard a real debate about.
Willie says Occupy Wall Street was not perfect, but they were overall a good movement. They were always mountain-wise superior to the neoconservative fundamentalist Christian bullshit of the Tea Party. I agree.
Taxes. So we tax people twice as much for working as we do for investing. Why do we do that? I mean,
Wait, Willie said, I wish Tulsi Gabbard would suck, if you know what I mean. Well, there's always a cold shower for me. Women stop becoming attractive to me whenever they reveal that they're ugly inside. I can't look at women who I thought at first were beautiful and see them the same way once I realize what they're about. They're no longer beautiful to me. They're ugly and disgusting, and I don't care how much makeup you put on that pig, bro. I could never find attraction to women who think that way. Completely becomes completely unattractive.
Right, too. Does that mean that investing is twice as virtuous as working? Do we seek to discourage work? I mean, we seek to discourage smoking. That's why we tax cigarettes so heavily. But we tax work at twice the rate of investing. So we're saying investors are twice as good people and making twice as important a moral choice as someone who just goes to work every day. Like, that's insane. Why don't we have parity in tax rates? And by the way, maybe there's some like crazy complex economic reason that we don't. I don't know. I'm very open-minded. Maybe if we did that, America would. Why don't you explain it to me? Why don't you explain that to me? Why people are getting taxed at half the rate for investing that I'm paying for working?
No, I actually agree with that, because the thing is that ultimately the investing is really geared towards the people who are affluent, who are the capitalists that own the means of production, when in reality it should be, the ease should be on the workers. But one thing he's not talking about is, why don't we just make the minimum wage into a living wage? Why don't we just, in fact, if we want to attack the wealth disparities, why isn't Tucker Carlson talking about reparations for black people within this country? Because ultimately we have been for hundreds of years working for free in this country.
Dude, come on. Tucker Carlson has discussed reparations. He is completely against them. And you know that, Jay. Don't act like you don't know where he stands on that. Come on.
Build it up so that people like Tucker Carlson can have a little bit more money in his bank account, legacy-wise. But when it comes to actual fairness, which reparations is actually about fairness.
Fairness is the last thing you're going to want to talk to Mr. fucking Entitlement here about.
And no one can. And by the way, well, maybe someone can. No one has, because we've never had a debate. It's more like, trans lives, or some stupid academic bullshit debate about, I don't know, what. And none of this stuff is
because trans lives is stupid. According to this moron. Trans lives. Who cares? They're different than me. Who cares about their lives? Their lives don't matter. What about white lives? What about those? There you go, Willie Bragg. There you go. I like that better. Exactly. You find attractiveness not just in the exterior, but also what's in here. J-Rock says Black Lives Matter. I want reparations back from my government that has been illegally taxing me. Billy, my grandmother called them prudes, a narcissistic sociopathic lady that holds a closed mind and a biased standard. Cruella de Vil. There's no clear choice for 2028 as a president, in my opinion. Hey, Pinoy. J-Rock says trans lives matter. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, Jay. J-Rock. Yes, they do. You're correct.
Relevant to even.
I didn't know that the lives of workers were academic debate. I mean, aren't trans people workers too?
This guy is losing it. Okay, I'm losing it.
How the fuck he sit there and let him say that on his program?
Like look, hang on. Let me say this.
Marty is here. What's up, Marty?
Redheads comprise about 2% of the population, right?
Marty.
Right? From what we can see, trans people are about, 1.5% of the population? But if we say that about the lives of redheads, there'll be outcry. But if we say that about trans people, it's like, that's just an academic conversation when it comes to there are tons and tons of legislation, anti-LGBTQ legislation being passed. It's funny because how much of the population actually comprises of Palestinian people, and yet we are coming together against the genocide that's happening in Gaza? Which is correct. We should be coming together about that. But yet we can't come together and actually advocate for our fellow workers who maybe have a different gender identity.
The white man has a God complex, man. The white man has a God complex. He feels like it's that main character syndrome where every conversation has to be around me, or don't make me feel uncomfortable, right? By calling out the racism and all the shit that we go through. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, when we speak on trans rights, or maybe what they're going through at the time, we're speaking on gay rights, or maybe what they're going through at the time, we're speaking on black rights, or the lack of, that make you feel some type of way, then maybe do some type of way, motherfucker. We shouldn't change. You should do it changing. If minorities are speaking up, we have been down, we have been kicked down, but now we are loud enough to be heard. And you telling us, shut the fuck up. How dare you? And to say that these people, it don't even matter. Speaking about some trans people, what the fuck is this guy talking about? I'm coming because this nigga make me mad.
Let's continue.
Aww.
I make a lot more than the average person. What if I made $50,000 a year? This would be a deeply relevant debate, but America has not been treated to that debate because we're arguing about race and endless race stuff. And last point, which is obvious, I'm not sure anybody could find tangible ways in which any black American or any white American has benefited from the furious debate and chin-tugging and yelling about race over the past 5 years. We can find one.
Look at your motherfucking grandkids. Look at your motherfucking nieces and nephews. Why are they more progressive than the generation that's before them? Because if people like us keep speaking up, we keep speaking up, and we put eyes on these things, put eyes on neighborhoods that you never will walk in. And if you drive by, I guarantee you'll rather run out of gas and go to AAA before you step out of that motherfucker. We are putting eyes on things and attention on things that people have no idea on. So now we have younger generations that's way more progressive than Generation X, way more progressive than the older millennials, way more progressive than the fucking boomers. So yes, debates are good. We should have these debates amongst each other. And this is why is so much racism amongst white families because y'all don't push back on that bullshit. So, your granddad, your uncle say some racist ass shit, and you like, oh my God, I'm just not gonna be like that. No, not only don't be like him, push back on that motherfucker.
I have some notes written down after this point. So, because both sides separate race from class, Tucker, you're separating race from class, favoring class, and others who are liberal will separate race from class and favor race. So the needle doesn't move. Also, the systems which keep white supremacy in place are not dismantled because it keeps us divided, remains in place. Not talking about white supremacy is like not going to the doctor about that lump on your testicles. You can avoid talking about it all you want.
Oh, that lump on your testicles.
Their ignorance is baffling. So
it's fucking funny.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say. Okay.
Those houses.
Talk about it.
Oh, okay. I love it. I mean, aside from like the obvious charlatans, and I'm sorry, I was going to add one thing, because I know Cornell, and I've always really liked Cornell. I went to Africa with him 20 years ago with Sharpton and had the best time ever. And I think he's legit smart. I will say that. I mean, he like reads Russian language, which is hard. And he has good instincts, but the fact that his default is always the shallow, effectively neoliberalism, which you would hate it if you heard me say that, but it's true. Why is that? He knows better. He's not dumb. He knows what's happening. And the truth is just a cover. It's his defense mechanism. Like, he doesn't want to.
This is coming from somebody who didn't realize that actually Dr. Cornel West actually put out a book back then called Race Matters. This was years and years ago. And just as to address Tucker Carlson on this, the intersection of class and race isn't neoliberalism. The separation of class and race is neoliberalism. The choosing the side of class over race as one over another divides us just like the establishment intended. Talking about class is like treating the problem that you don't know what it is, like putting a tourniquet on a gunshot victim. It will help a little, but it doesn't treat the underlying cause. Only talking about just race is like saying you have a bullet in your leg, but not actually treating the wound and taking it out and patching it up. So the thing is that you have to do both. The problem is you have one side that wants to do one and the other side that wants to do the other. Meanwhile, many of us are saying, no, you have to treat it both at the same time.
He does kind of want, still an endowed chair to Princeton. So if they come for him at all, he's like, race, trans, whatever. Like, it's purely his force field. That's all. That's my opinion.
So you are correct. I was a big fan of Dr. Cornel West again until he came on my show, and then he is really smart, like you said. He reads Russian, all this stuff, and that's why it was so disappointing when he pretended he was dumber than a pothead jagoff comedian for that entire interview. He tried to make the case that Donald Trump tried to overthrow the peaceful transfer of power on January 6th, which I know he's smarter than. And a bunch of Second Amendment gun nuts showed up at the Capitol to try to overthrow the government, and son of a bitch, they all forgot their guns. Isn't that the weirdest thing? Oh my God! It's like, Vinny, you didn't bring the guns? No, I brought the mittens. Anyway, of course he knows better. And then I tried to point out that one of his issues is Stop Cop City, people who are protesting the expansion of the police state in Atlanta. And I tried to point out to him that the same RICO laws that, by the way, were invented to go after the mafia, which is why everybody was okay with them. Oh, you're really going to use them to go after the mafia? Well, now they're using them to go after Donald Trump, a former president who's a political enemy of the establishment and the #1 opponent of the current president, Joe Biden.
Here's the thing. Donald Trump isn't any enemy of the establishment. He's a part of it.
He's part of the damn establishment.
It's theatrics. What the Joe Biden administration did is pretty much purely theatrics. What about the FBI targeting the African People's Socialist Party in the same week that the FBI went to Trump after Trump in Mar-a-Lago? How many people are actually talking about that? Where Amali Yishitella has been coming on independent media to actually talk about what they've been going through in regards to the FBI coming after them. But is he talking about that?
Used the RICO statute to go after him and indict him. Not only did they use the same RICO statute to go after Stop Cop City protesters, they used the same grand jury. The same grand jury indicted them. And I tried to point that out to Cornel West. And when I said, you see the game that's being played now, he pretended he didn't, and then he called me a Trumper. And so for that, I don't think
he called me a Trumper.
And I won't. And I won't stop bringing it up either. Just like I won't stop bringing up.
It's just so, but it's so sad though. It's so sad. I mean, because Cornell, the whole shtick is, I'm a free man. I'm an old blues man. He's always saying that. And he could be. He actually could be a free man because he has all the qualities required. He's self-aware. He's smart. He's wildly articulate, and he's a good dude.
He's smart. He's wildly articulate. Gosh.
Now, where did I hear this before? Oh my God, man! Those dog whistles as loud as dead.
Dude, was he talking about Trump, calling Trump wildly articulate?
Story of my life, especially as somebody who speaks the way I speak and presents the way I present myself. I've heard this so many times in my life. Good Lord.
Actually, in my opinion. So why not be? And I think he's had a series of, very complex personal life, and they basically just kind of have him. Like, he needs the gig, and so he has to, repeat the slogans.
And that's why
it bums me out every time I see him.
It totally bummed me out, and I tried to impress upon him, why do you call Donald Trump a fascist? You won't call Joe Biden a fascist.
I agree. Joe Biden is both a fascist and Donald Trump.
I don't know who they're talking about. I'm so sorry. I thought they were talking about Trump.
And we had our back and forth. I don't call it a back and forth, but we had our disagreements with Dr. Cornel West about.
Oh, Dr. Cornel West. That's who they're talking about. My bad.
We agree with Jimmy Dore on some points. We agree with Dr. Cornel West on some points. But see, this is the thing, man. It is so much of a slap in the face to hear from a rich white man and tell us to stop talking about race. The reason why we talk about race is because you don't. Somebody has to put eyes on these things. People would not know what's really going on in the black community. If it
Quarter of the hour, no longer on cannabis. Cheers, everybody. I hope you're keeping up and smoking along and having fun. Show.
We're better off. I'm outside, and I see my future has been taken away from me. generational wealth is an illusion.
Let's continue.
And you pretend like fascism only comes when Donald Trump is president. We're living in it. We just lived through 3 years of coded fascism.
Okay, Jimmy, let me ask you this. When it comes to the people who were disproportionately affected by COVID, let me ask you this. Which racial group was disproportionately affected by COVID? Also, why was it disproportionate? Interesting, right? When you start to think about it, why was it disproportionate? Well, come to find out, it's disproportionate because of white supremacy.
And you know what? I went in Toledo, Ohio. I was doing a giveaway during the pandemic. Just like in the middle of it, doing a giveaway, and it was paying poor black people, homeless black people, to get their vaccines. So I asked this window, how many vaccines have you gotten already? He like, I got like 13 vaccines. So we want to talk about all the vaccines and this and that, blah, blah, blah. You have to talk about who's affected the most by it, and who's being used as a guinea pig. Who's being used as a guinea pig for these experiments? I mean, shit, we can go to the population, but who's that? Who's the person population? Who?
Let's continue. Because I got my closing thoughts as well on all this.
Presented with it, and when presented with it and the chance to fight against it, you turned a blind eye to it on purpose, and that's what he did, and his whole class did that. Because
no, he did not, because in the interview he actually.
And I must agree to disagree respectfully with everything they just said. Let us continue.
Because he wants to lead a commission to actually investigate the effects of the jab and how it has
with all due respect
been manipulated by the big pharma as well. So that's not being completely honest there, James.
Because Cornel West is not from the working class. I'm from the fucking working class. Not
actually. Hold up. Because if you look at Jimmy's Wikipedia, I'm not even going to bring it up. I have it here, but I'm not going to bring it up. Jimmy Dore, even though he comes from Chicago and his father was a police officer, his father also owned a bricklaying business, which he's going to bring out that I used to, do bricklaying, which was his father's business. And Jimmy also went to a private school for 12 years. So, is he really working class like the rest of us? Because Dr. Cornel West went to a public high school.
We got to remember when rich people say I'm working class, it means I have to work, right? Even though they are middle class. They are middle class, but they still consider themselves workers because they actually have to go work. But they are still better off. This man has generational wealth, basically, right?
Right on, Craig.
Well, it's crazy. It's crazy to say you are somewhat working class. You are not the poor class, and it shows from you wanting to shut the fucking black people up because ain't no poor working white man. You know what I'm saying? That feels like that way. I want to shut me up. Like no, I know. Man, come on, man. Let's keep it real.
Here it says Dore's father was a policeman who owned a brickwork business, right? It says that he attended Catholic schools. A Catholic school is a private school. So, I mean, if that's working class, well, that's a lot better than people like me. That's a lot better than people like Dr. West, because Dr. West actually went to a public schools.
He just got rich as he got older. I mean, shit, selling all damn books.
I'm not saying that Dr. West isn't working class or Jimmy is rich. I'm saying that they're relatively both the same class throughout their entire life. Man. So if you're going to say that, well, Dr. West is not working class, but you both literally had around the same financial trajectory between each other. And then on top of it, now you're a comedian that makes millions of dollars a year. Dr. Cornel West is making $500,000 a year and working in colleges as well as doing speaking engagements. So as far as class goes, really, you both are relatively in the same class.
I mean, yeah, you can say you were part of the working class, but you're not anymore.
Not anymore.
And it really shows, man. It really shows sometimes. And I hate how out of touch people get when they get money.
Let's continue this. We're almost done.
Not Cornel West. He's lived in ivory towers his whole goddamn life. I was a bricklayer. I worked in masonry. I drove a
for your father's company.
Forklift. I was in the Teamsters. I've been a fucking stand-up comedian for 30 years. There's nothing more blue collar than banging your head against that comedy wall and entertaining drunks at midnight. I've come from that world, not him.
Interesting how you were able to live out your dreams. Some of us who are black, especially.
Interesting how you're able to live out your dreams, dude. Let me just stop right there.
I'll be 40 next year.
Dude, that was a fucking excellent response to Jimmy Dore, man. That was, and it was.
What is this? What is this? A big ass circle jerk? I did more. I did this. I did that.
Okay. Even still, let's take what Jimmy said at face value, right? Let's just say hypothetically, yes, Dr. Cornel West is of a higher class. You never heard of class traders? Yeah. Okay.
I got a couple of them.
Yeah, there are some people who may be of a higher class, but they have solidarity with workers. But let's continue.
So he lives in ivory towers, and you're always going to be a class loyal, and that's what he was, and that's what he proved to be on my show, and that's what.
Jimmy's part of a higher class, but he claims to be with the workers, so he's not class loyal, even though he's in a higher class.
It was really disheartening, and he knows he's wrong.
You don't have to be, though. You don't have to be. I will say, as I was hearing about how you grew up, it's like the opposite of how I grew up, and
yes, the opposit, because remember, Tucker Carlson is also a Swanson. Meaning part of the Swanson food empire, meaning that Tucker Carlson is actually part and heir to a $1 million empire.
Privileged.
So, yeah.
So privileged.
I've kind of reached a lot of the same conclusions.
Bow
that you have,
tie.
maybe for different reasons. I just concluded that world is not worth
So
living in.
white.
It's not that interesting. It's not that great,
That it's-
actually. All the things that people aspire to,
you know,
see it, like, it's just, it's not that
Tucker
incredible.
Carlson. Oh, my screen is just one blank because Windows sucks. Tucker Carlson is so white that when you refer to his whiteness, it's actually pronounced white.
Live like that. I want to be around those people. And so, like, the closer you get, so that's not a sad thing. It's like, even if you succeed, if you keep collecting merit badges and wind up wherever you think you want to be on someone's private plane, you know, it's like with Larry Fink.
Is he trying to say that Dr. Quinn West rubbed shoulders with Larry Fink? Because I didn't find any news regarding that.
You realize, like, I don't really want to be on a plane with Larry Fink. He's a pig, actually, and he's kind of dumb. You know, he's like smart in some specific way that's made him a billionaire, but like, he's not a great person. His wife doesn't respect him, that's for sure, or whatever. You know, like, the familiarity with that world breeds more than contempt, it breeds loathing. At least that's how I feel. Like, I have zero interest in ever being in polite society ever again, and that's
The
as
richest,
a statement as I
you
can
know,
make.
the guy that owns BlackRock, Larry Fink.
So, let me go over a couple more factoids, and then I have some thoughts that I really want to share. Let me share this.
I mean, to sit here and kick it with Tucker Carlson, like everything is all right with this dude. Like, can't this nigga say immigrants is making the country dirty?
Yep, he did.
Come on, man. What kind of, I don't know about this, though. I don't know about that. I don't know about
So
that.
it says LGBTQ youth are 120% more likely to experience homelessness, according to a recent study from the Chapman Hall at the University of Chicago. LGBTQ young people are 120% more likely to experience homelessness than non-LGBTQ youth. Right off the bat, these young people are presented with an uneven playing field. True Colors Unite is working to level that field so that LGBTQ youth are no more likely to experience homelessness than anyone else. We've seen this higher risk reflected in our own research. It is estimated about 7% of youth in the United States are LGBTQ, while 40% of youth experience homelessness are LGBTQ. So it is a class issue, and it always has been a class issue. Let me ask you this. How did the people in this country who are black, how did we end up here?
You were
Money.
forced here.
Ultimately, that's what it is.
You're
Now, I'm
captured
gonna share
and
this
brought
as well,
here.
because I think this is a really interesting and very valid point that I want to share. Shout out to Midwestern Marks and shout out to Noah Krejcik for sharing this. Thank you so very much for this, because this is true class analysis that also incorporates race. Noah says, people have been asking me lately, why Du Bois? He talked about W.E.B. Du Bois. He says, why W.E.B. Du Bois is the father of American Marxism? Wasn't he just a liberal? Didn't he say some random stuff pulled out of context? Carlos Garrido recently wrote a brilliant paper on this, but unfortunately it's behind a paywall. Academic journalists are the worst, and we're not allowed to republish it. So let me explain in brief. Marxism, or Marxism-Leninism, if you want to be technical about it, is universal. It is the universality of all society moving forward, gives us the laws of development. What Du Bois gives us is the particular. Black Reconstruction in America shows us, if not the primary particular form, then one of the most important particular forms of American class struggle. It gives us an analysis of the color line of how race and class function. From that Marxist-Leninist universal understanding, from the historical materialist viewpoint, it gives us the category of the black proletariat as a class of enslaved workers, and of the Second American Revolution that waged against the slaveocracy, of the dictatorship of the proletariat that was the Reconstruction South, the Freedmen's Bureau backed by the power of the Northern armies. But that isn't all Du Bois gives us. He gives us the materialist view of racism, proving that it wasn't racism that created chattel slavery, but instead chattel slavery that created racism. That the relations of the white proletariat had with the bosses and with the black proletariat, all of this functions as an outcome of slavery. There's a lot of talk in Marxism about the steam engine, the spinning jenny, and other technological drivers of institutional capitalism. But the underlying every bit of it was chattel slavery feeding the British textile mills with cotton. Without chattel slavery, capitalism would have never lasted a day. Capitalism is, very literally, built on the foundation of the most brutal forms of oppression, of enslavement of man by man.
So this is an hour and 30 minutes into this thing. I'm going to stop it now. I am really appreciating this conversation. I want to hear the rest of it. I'm probably going to watch it on my own time. But you guys take care, and I will see you on the next show. I hope you enjoyed the hour and a half. And I'll be live again soon, I'm sure. And in the meantime, come on over to Twitter. I'm at Nay's Garden on Twitter, and I'll be looking for you over there. All right? Download Twitter or go to twitter.com on your internet accessible devices. Bye, guys. Bye.